Welcome back to Equity TV. I'm your host, Christine Den. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it was our next guest's village who motivated him to go to college. Please welcome BC professor Cornelio Rodriguez, otherwise known as Corny.
Yes, thank you.
So welcome. Tell us about who you hung out with as a kid and what you realized as a result.
Growing up, I grew up in Norwalk, California, and I grew up in the barrio. When I reflect back and I think about it in terms of my neighborhood, I mean, to me, you know, we were doing good until I grew up that I realized that we were very poor. So I look at my friends, you know, in terms of education and what have you, and I'm the only one that went on beyond high school to college. We hung out, we low riding, you know, fixed our cars, went cruising Whittier Boulevard, and things of that nature. But for some reason, there was something in me that said that education is important.
So what did your homeboys have to say about that when you told them?
Well, they said, "You think you're good." You know, it was like, "Oh, now you think you're good, huh?" And I said, "No." In fact, I used to make a joke of it, and I used to say, "I don't think I'm good. I know I'm good."
Oh.
but that was bantering back and forth. But the reality was that, you know, they did. They said, "You don't hang out with us anymore. We don't go cruising. We don't work on our vehicles, what have you." And I said, "You know, I need to get an education. I need to do that." Interesting part about that was that when I first went on to college, they harassed me quite a bit. And they went on to work in factory and warehouse work and, you know, construction work, things of that nature. Their vehicles were a lot nicer than mine. So I got to the point, and it was about a year and a half into it, where I said, you know what, maybe there's something to going out there and making that dollar and getting a nice vehicle. And I actually said to them, you know what, I think you're right. I think it's time for me to just kind of refocus. Interesting part about that, by then, because they had worked a year and a half, 2 years, and whatever they were doing, and some of them were married, they said, no.
Don't do it?
Don't give up. You have to get educated. You have to make it. You're going to be the role model for our kids. If anybody's going to make it, you've got to do it. And that did help me in terms of turning around and saying, no, I'm going to continue.
Oh, that's good to know. So what did your dad say when you told him you wanted to go to college? You guys had a very interesting conversation.
I call that the I don't know conversation. And it was my senior year. Granted, you know, as a Latino, many times I was directed towards the shops, metal shop, plastics and leather, wood shop, automotive shop. Automotive was my favorite. But at the same time, something inside me, I always took college prep courses alongside of those. And so I was interested. Deep down inside, I wanted that. But at the same time, being poor, I didn't know how that was going to happen. And so I remember the conversation with my father. He says, "Mijo, what are you going to do when you graduate?" And I said, "I don't know." He says, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I said, "I don't know." And I said, "I don't know," primarily because I wanted to go to college, but because we were poor, I didn't think that we could afford for me to go to college, and I didn't want to put that on him. And he's the one that said, "Well, don't you want to go to college?" And I said, well, yeah. And he says, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Cerritos College," which would be equivalent to Bakersfield College here down in Norwalk. And he says, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to get into automotive repair and painting cars and modifying them and low riding them and things." And, you know, he didn't discourage me. He says, "You know, that's nice." He says, "Wouldn't you want to teach others how to do that?" And I said, "Wow, that would be neat. How do I do that?" He says, "I don't know." He says, "Go ask." I said, "Who?" He says, "I don't know." And I said, "Just find out." And I said, "Where, Dad?" He says, "I don't know. But just go find out." And I said, "Well, I don't know."
A lot of I don't knows
So
there.
I call it the I don't know conversation. But I don't know if that was impromptu or not, but I know that was a breaking point for me in terms of that I felt good about knowing that if I wanted to go, I had the family support, not the financial support, but I had the support because there was also that push to go out and work and help the family.
There's a lot of students that have the pressure to go to work and not go to college.
Exactly.
So to have that family support, sometimes I would think it's even more powerful than the economic or financial support.
Yes.
Because you could always find money, but you can't always find the emotional support.
I agree 100%. And at the time, although it was difficult, I worked my way through college because that's the other part of it is that I didn't know about financial aid. I didn't know about grants. That whole concept of somebody is going to provide you money to study, when I was offered a financial aid letter, because being poor, they said, you qualify for X amount. I said, there's got to be a catch, and I declined it.
Oh.
And I just kept working. I ended up working 2 or 3 part-time jobs to go through college. Eventually, in my junior year, when I learned more about it and what it really meant, then all I took was just the basic grant that really covered for my fees. And by the way, back then, it was a lot cheaper.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it was a lot cheaper maybe 5-10 years ago. It was
Right.
But yeah, it's a classic example of how not knowing or not being educated about that can actually hold you back in your education when it comes to financial aid and all those grants. But it's overwhelming. I mean, there's all these acronyms, right? FAFSA and BOG.
FAFSA, BOG, Pell, what does that mean? We didn't know what that meant, SEOG, Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. Oh, okay. But, people just kind of throw those at you. And now I think it is different for youth, though, because, you could throw an acronym at somebody, and if they don't know it, what do they do? Go to the internet. Let me Google and find out what that is. Yeah. Back then, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
And where, who do you ask? Where do you go? And that's why I tell that I don't know story quite a bit, because it's like, what do I do? Where do I go?
So, well, one of the first places that people can go to is to your office, right?
Correct. Exactly. For me in high school, I remember it was the clerk in our high school career center. Her name was Mickey Torres. This lady, I think, really helped me more than she ever realized. Today, what I'd like to tell the community is that if they have a question, feel free to contact me at Bakersfield College. Okay.
So they don't even have to be a student there.
No. What we want to do is that we want to encourage the community to further their education, whether it's BC or anywhere else. So if we can help them understand that, that's what we're there for. I feel strongly that if a student feels comfortable with somebody, they're going to end up at BC. I think BC is an excellent place to start an education, whether you know what you want to do or not.
So that leads us into your Padrino advocacy program, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we have a group on campus. We call it Padrinos. And Padrinos, translated, is godparents. We embrace that term because as a godparent, somebody's entrusting their child to you. Should something happen to me, I'm entrusting that you will help my child grow up and with the right values, ethics, or whatever the case may be. So in the education, we felt that Padrinos is a community is entrusting their children to us for them to get an education. And so then a part of that is what we currently develop, what we call the Padrino Advocates. And the Padrino Advocates basically is a contact point person for that student and or community member that has questions about education and specifically at BC.
But that's different from their mentoring program, right?
Correct. Thank you. We do have a mentoring program where students do work closely a lot more at a higher level with whether it be a faculty or staff member at the college in terms of every so often and what have you. Because we have such a large number of Latino students now at BC, almost 60% of our students are Latino. And we figure, I don't know if we have enough staffing to be able to provide that mentoring. And so we developed the Padrino Advocates.
So how is community college a safe place for someone to find themselves or surf different careers affordably?
Affordably. I think it's an excellent opportunity for anybody who's not quite sure. They know they want an education. They want a better occupational option for themselves. And at BC specifically, we have what we call our Counseling 2 course. And in that course, that students are able to explore in terms of their interests, their skills, their abilities, in terms of where their interest is at. And then at the same time, that course gives them an entire plan of if this is where you are, this is where you want to be. These are the courses that you needed to take in order to get to that point.
So what other, advice or tips do you have for students considering college but kind of find themselves on the fence?
I think one of the things that going back to having a contact person is contacting BC. We have wonderful people at Bakersfield College. I would like them to contact me, but I'm not always available. But they can contact anybody that I would say for them to come and visit. I know that for me, when I considered going to college, it was a scary place. I actually thought that there was a gate, and they said, you can come in, you can come in. And I thought they were going to look at me and say, you can't come in. and that was one perception that I have. The other one is, what we see on TV is what we know.
Yes.
So as an example, again, I use myself. All I knew about college is what I saw on TV. And the men wore white shirts, a black tie, and they wore glasses. At that time, I didn't own a tie, and I didn't need glasses. And so I thought, college, I don't fit.
Yeah.
So anyways, what I'm saying is that I think one suggestion would be for them to come and visit Bakersfield College and just be there.
Yeah.
Get a sense of belonging, get a sense of comfort.
Exactly. It's all about getting comfortable, being in a safe zone, right?
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Corny, or Professor Rodriguez. Or what do you...
Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I tell my students, just call me Corny.
Okay, Corny.
Just don't call me cornflakes or corn nuts, and then we're okay.
Okay. I'll keep Kellogg's out of it, too. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a short break after this, and when we come back, we'll talk to our next guest, hopefully about the DREAM Act.